Just wanted to tell to my gramophone followers and viewers and my friends that the gramophone restoration is moving well. I have nothing to show you this week. I'm still making the video that will last in the course of several days. Then I will edit it out and then I will combine all the bits and pieces of this video together so you can see the progress. Today I just wanted to show you a couple of more things from my collection. What I wanted to show you is a couple of things that are related to the gramophone world. So this is the nice little old gramophone record album. It was made in the early 1900s. It is the placeholder for storing the early type records. As you can see, each page kind of have a hole on this side, but not on the other side. So that means that this record album was produced for the one-sided records. One-sided records looked like this. Berliner's gramophone. Do you guys know who was Emil Berliner? E. Berliner, it says here. It was Emil Berliner who made it possible to record the sound on a flat disc, and he was the first person who set up the commercial production of these records worldwide. There are no grooves on the other side, it's completely flat. It is not because they wanted to keep one song on a record, but it just they didn't have technical abilities to record on both sides back in the day. Similar records were produced in Europe and similar were produced on the Russian Empire market in the first couple of years of when the whole thing started. Another, this is for the small records. For the mid-sized records, there was a similar album produced by the same company. Both captions are done in Cyrillic. These albums were found by me in the debris of the old demolished house in the middle of Siberia in my hometown. When I was in the art school, my teacher and myself, we were always browsing around the districts of the freshly demolished old ancient buildings. Many houses in the mid of the 90s were demolished, brutally demolished, to free up the space for the new development. Some of the houses were more than 100 years old, and digging into the pile of the construction debris, you could find amazing things there. That's where I found these two albums, which are still with me. They were all full of records. That was the time when my hobby started, actually. This hobby has nothing to do with my passion to vinyl records, because vinyl records I'm collecting mostly because I like the music. And these records I collect not because of the music, but because these records are the part of the Russian history. And I'm the carrier of the Russian culture. Of course, I condemn the war. And I know that Russia is at its worst time, but they were even much worse time than now. Russia has never been a civilized country, I must tell you. It gave a birth to many beautiful musicians and poets, which became the standard for the world culture. But it was always a contrast that at the beginning of the 20th century, about 5 million of Russians were living in towns. And the town could be not necessarily Moscow or St. Petersburg. There were towns that were consist of several streets like Omsk, my city where I was born. These 5 million people were making Russian culture, actually, and 95 million of people, 95% of the entire population of Russia were living in the poverty. They didn't know how to read and write. That's how unfair it was for Russia, like not in any other country of Europe. So this collection of records, of old records, is 80% Russian records. because they represent the Russian culture and the Russian history. I love the music too, but not as much as I love the American Western music of 1950s, 1960s. This is my main preference in music, but this is a completely different world. And I hold up all the posts with Russian records today because, to my deepest sorrow, I have to hold on with all the Russian posts now till the war is over. I condemn this war, and I'm not at the mood of popularizing the Russian culture. Nevertheless, today I would like to show you some of the gramophone artifacts that I have. Most of them are Russian, but we will play not a Russian record today. We will play one French record instead. And before we move on to this French record, I'll show you a couple of interesting Russian artifacts from there. This is the most common label in the gramophone industry of that time, Zonophone record. The price of the Zonophone 10-inch green label record was 1 ruble 50 cents. It was still quite costly for people who were making like 40 rubles a month. The grandfather of my grandfather, who was the railroad worker, was 40 rubles a month. And it was an average salary for the worker of this type. And of course, to buy a record which would worth 1 ruble each would be costly, but still I think affordable. And the sleeve of this record is generic. Before 1940s, all the sleeves were generic all around the world, and they were either blank ones, or they were having the advertisement of the music shop or the music company that was producing the records. This is showing the gramophone, the telephone number. This is dated back to 1910, 1915. Also, another extraphone record. This label was in operation in Ukraine, in Kiev. They started making records around 1912 and up to 1915. Also very interesting generic sleeve that was advertising the shop in Moscow, Kukuyev and Sons, located in Moscow. That's what it says here. Of course, all these records I brought with me from Russia. It was quite illegal to carry them abroad, but some friends of mine, they helped me to ship them over here. This is the Becca record, one-sided. So at the beginning, all the records were one-sided because they couldn't technically produce two sides. But then they left only the one-sided records only for the most distinguished and big artists, such big stars as Shalapin, Sobinov, Smirnov, many other names, very big names in the opera. For these artists, Gramophone Company was producing one-sided records up to 1917. Another extraphone records made in Kiev. Look at the beautiful label. Another beautiful record by the Extraphone Company, located in Kiev, Ukraine. This contains some interesting Ukrainian ethnic music. There was another brand, Sirena Record. Its head office was located in Warsaw, in Poland. They started producing records in the early 1910s. They had a big market in the Russian Empire, so there was no award in Polish on labels, but this record was made in Poland, which was a part of the Russian Empire. Then, after Poland became independent, this record company was still producing records up to World War II. Another gramophone record by the by the giant brand of that time, Gramophone Company. They started making records on the territory of the Russian Empire with a trademark of the written angel. There was an angel sitting on the record. The black label was worth of 3 rubles and 50 kopecks. There was a orange color, there was a pink color, there was a red color, there was black color, and also there was the purple color of those labels. And each color had its own price. The most expensive records were with internationally well-known artists like Francesca Tamagno, or Caruso was very expensive as well. In Russia, the most expensive artists were Shalyapin or Sobinov. They were issued on the pink labels. I don't have a record beside me with a Shalyapin record, but I have some of them. Again, the green label Xonophone, that was produced in a very low price range. That was the comic duet of Bim and Bom, the circus clowns. If you look at this record, it is all written in Italian. And you may think that you are keeping in your hands the Italian record, the record that was produced in Italy. However, you would never guess what it is if I don't tell you. This is a pirated production. Yes, there were some pirates in the Russian phonograph industry that were copying the international records and were putting any label on the record that would mislead you and make you think that you are holding something that was produced abroad. Everything that was done abroad was way much more popular than something that was made inside of Russia. People who pirated this recording knew about that and made an impression that this record was made in Italy. However, it was made somewhere in St. Petersburg, but you can never tell. And of course, they were not copying anybody. They were copying the well-known artists. For example, here is Selma Kurz, Der Vogel im Walde, which means in German, the bird in the forest. Another type of the pirated production that was made on the territory of the Russian Empire. This is an interesting record, and it's in a beautiful shape as well. This record was made in Odessa. What this company was doing was pretty funny. They were getting someone's record, use the Galvanic process to make the matrix directly from the record, and they were printing records from that matrix. The quality of those records were not the best, but why people were buying them? Because they were extremely cheap. So you could buy this record for about 50 kopecks versus to 5 rubles. So it was 10 times cheaper than the official release of the same record. This is an interesting record. And also look at the sleeve. Look at the sleeve. It says Siegfried Kach. That's the first and last name of the person who is the owner of the music store. It's been located in Moscow on Petrovka Street. The record itself is Stella Concert Record. Stella Concert Record was operating in Germany, but again, because they were selling some records on the Russian market, they were recording some Russian artists on it. In this particular place, in this particular case, they recorded the Ukrainian artists in there, and everything here says in Cyrillic. There is no even a word in German. This is a pretty interesting sleeve from the turn of the century, 1902 or 1903. With the advertisement of the gramophone of the early type here. And says Russian gramophone, Moscow, Tverskaya Street, number 26. one of the most beautiful labels I've seen on the records of the pre-revolutionary period is this label. I forgot, and I completely forgot about one more record that I wanted to show you, is this one. This doesn't even have the paper label on it. This is one of the earliest Russian records that ever has been produced for commercially. So this was recorded in the 1900, 1900, and it has the information about the artist aged in the mass of the record. Take a close look what it's been written on the top of it. It says the Berliner's gramophone. That's how powerful the Berliner was. He was operating from the United States, but he was producing records for the Russian Empire on the other side of the world. My dear followers of the channel, I promised you to play a record. And today we will be listening to the historical piece of the recording history. One-sided record produced in 1903, the first stamper. The first stamper, not everyone understands what the first stamper is, but I'm telling for those who knows that this is the first stamper record. First stamper record sound much better than the second or the third or the fourth. So this record was produced in France. It says Paris on it. If I would put this record on the record player without the announcement, without explanation, you will not know what the hell is going on. This is the record of the actress known as Sarah Bernhardt, whose career would expand from the 1860s till the beginning of the 20s. She was born in 1844 and she died, a very old lady, in 1923. And this record, because it was recorded in 1903, it preserved her voice and her play at the age of, let me calculate, 56. She was 59-year-old on this record. The length of this recording is about 3 minutes. However, the records of this size would take only 2.5 minutes. So for that, the engineers who were recording this disc, they slowed down the speed for this disc to make it possible to record the entire speech. So you see the grooves go very close to the label, and the speed was really slowed down to let Sarah Bernhardt to talk as long as she wants. Sarah's career expanded 6 decades, during which she established herself as the Victorian era most celebrated actress. So she was a great actress when one day, when she was 50-year-old, she had to play an 18-year-old Jeanne d'Arc. And the whole Paris was anticipating the moment when 50-year-old actress would play an 18-year-old girl. Among the admirers of this actress, there were some haters of that actress as well. So those haters were waiting to see her disgraced. They were waiting to see her to fail at that role. How the 50-year-old actress could play 18-year-old Jeanne d'Arc. And the entire city of Paris turned out in the theater to watch how Sarah Bernhardt is going to play this role. And there was an episode when the judge is asking the young Jeanne d'Arc, how old are you? There was a silence, and Sarah Bernhardt rolled her eyes on the spectators who were furiously in anticipation of that moment, and she yelled on them, "I'm the 18-year-old." And the power of her words was such that everyone really believed that she was 18-year-old, and she was looking like this. And at that same time, the crowd of spectators roared in delight, because they understood that minute that the great actress is always 18-year-old. She is always young, although she is your grandmother. I think I intrigued you with this story, so you know now you're all ready to listen to this piece of the history that contain the real voice of Sarah Bernhardt. I don't understand French. I know that the title of this record is Le Vieux. Le Vieux means the old. So let's listen to this record. This is a Stamper one that is it is in a pretty good condition, so you'll hear clearly the voice of the real Sarah Bernhardt. I will not play it on the gramophone because the gramophone is using the metal needle. In order to preserve this record, I will be playing it on the regular record player with gentle needle.
Les vieux, car madame est morte, dit par madame Sarah Bernhardt. Lorsque tu seras vieux et que je serai vieille, lorsque mes cheveux blancs seront des cheveux blancs, au mois de mai, dans les jardins qui s'ensoleillent, nous irons réchauffer nos vieux membres tremblants. Comme le renouveau mettra nos cœurs en fête, nous nous croirons encore de jeunes amoureux. Et je te sourirai tout en branlant la tête, et nous ferons un couple adorable de vieux. Nous nous regarderons assis sous notre treille, avec de petits yeux attendris et brillants. Lorsque tu seras vieux et que je serai vieille, lorsque mes cheveux blancs seront des cheveux blancs, sur notre banc amis, couvert d'âtres de mousse, sur le banc d'autrefois nous reviendrons causer. Nous aurons une joie attendrie et très douce, la phrase finissant souvent par un baiser. Combien de fois jadis j'ai pu dire je t'aime, alors avec grand soin nous le rencontrons. Nous nous ressouviendrons de mille choses, même de petits riens exquis dont nous radoterons. Un rayon descendra d'une caresse douce parmi nos cheveux blancs, nous roses se poser. Quand sur notre vieux banc, couvert d'âpres de mousse, sur le banc d'autrefois, nous reviendrons causer. Et comme chaque jour je t'aime davantage, aujourd'hui plus qu'hier et moins bien que demain, qu'importeront alors les rides du visage, mon amour se fera plus grave et plus serein. Songe que tous les jours des souvenirs s'enlacent, c'est comme un souvenir toujours plus nous enlace, et sans cesse entre nous tissent d'autres liens. C'est vrai, nous serons vieux, très vieux, faibles par l'âge, mais plus fort chaque jour, je serrerai ta main. Car voici, chaque jour, je t'aime davantage, aujourd'hui plus qu'hier et moins bien que demain. Lorsque tu seras vieux et que je serai vieille, lorsque mes cheveux blonds seront des cheveux blancs, au mois de mai, dans le jardin sous ton soleil, nous irons réchauffer nos vieux membres tremblants. Comme le renouveau mettra nos cœurs en fête, nous nous croirons encore de jeunes amoureux. Et je te sourirai tout en branlant la tête, et nous ferons un couple adorable de vieux. Nous nous regarderons assis sous notre treille, avec de petits yeux attendris et brillants. Lorsque tu seras vieux et que je serai vieille, lorsque mes cheveux blancs seront des cheveux blancs.